Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Skowronski. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DX.Exchange. Just real quick, DX is a crypto and fiat exchange. We're regulated here in the EU. We also have a security token exchange as well that we're all launching in the next couple of weeks. As you guys can imagine, 2018 was a very interesting year in crypto, wouldn't you think? Kind of started with China. I'm going to get over in here and talk to you over here. It started with China really kind of doing a ban on ICOs first, and then kicking out the exchanges. So you saw a lot of these Asian exchanges starting to try to move around. I actually had an interesting story. I was in Zurich, and I met one of these Chinese gentlemen who did an ICO. And if you recall, China actually said you had to give the money back to the customers. He was more than happy to give the customers the money back because he had to give it at the ICO price, which had already gone up like 30 times. And so I think he ended up pocketing the money and moving to Zurich or something like this. So, you know, it's really interesting how it all started with China, and now the SEC is really coming down on you know, whether it's an ICO, whether it's a security token, whether I think there were so many subpoenas that were sent out. And the reason why the SEC is doing that is because they're out there to protect US customers. And I think with us being here in Europe, it's really surprising to me how European companies or non-US companies are really scared of the SEC. The only thing you have to worry about the SEC is if you took US customers, which unfortunately, most of the projects in the exchanges in 2017, that's what they did. But with regulation comes some positives, right? So Japan, for example, Japan's a really good regulated company or country for crypto. South Korea is doing some wonderful things. Australia is starting to regulate exchanges and ICOs. Here in Europe, some of the smaller countries are kind of taking a lead, like Malta or Gibraltar. Switzerland has been a big player from the early days. Right? Estonia is another one. Cyprus is starting to get into the fray. What I'm really interested in for 2019 is trying to see what is the EU going to come out of this. You know, what is the UK going to do? What is Germany going to do? You know, this is where we can start to see more things on regulation. And I think we've got a really nice panel that's going to be coming up next to be able to talk about that. Now, in terms of regulation, why do we need regulation? Well, it's really about trying to make the market more legitimate, right? And there's two things that we have big problems with in the crypto world. One is fake volume and price manipulation. Probably everybody's heard about the fake volumes and things like this, so I'm not going to go into that. But the price manipulation is important because Jay Clayton, this SEC chairman, basically, I think, had the best reason not to approve an ETF, which everybody seems to be waiting for, is that the underlying asset, in this case Bitcoin, needs to be more stable. It has to be free of manipulation. Otherwise, why should they approve something like that? Why would pension funds and asset managers be investing in something that could possibly have manipulation? It was, I thought, one of the best excuses or reasons he actually made, or the SEC has commented about why an ETF is not being approved. But when you talk about the institutional space, right, what does institutional really mean? I was speaking in a conference a couple weeks ago, and this kind of came out, and I said, well, you know, when you say institutional, what is that? Is that the, what's the new exchange from New York.Exchange? BAT? Is that? I don't know. I had to Google actually the name and hit the what is it called? The translation button just so I can understand what the name is. BAT, I think, is the exchange called. Or is it ERSC? What's the other one called? E-RISC, E-R-I-S-X? What is it with these Americans and these names? I don't know. But you know, is that institutional money? Is Fidelity coming in with a custodial solution? Is that going to bring institutional money? You know, I think State Street has been talking about it. Or is the institutional money Goldman Sachs with their trading desk? Is it Goldman Sachs investing in companies like Circle? Is it the asset management firms that some of you guys are here, or the family offices that want to come into it? Is that what the institutional money is? So we actually have a really good panel on institutions, and I think these are the questions that we really need to understand is, what do we mean by institutional money coming into this space? I think the next thing that we're talking about today is a really interesting product that's made a lot of news in the last few months, is stablecoins. For those of you who don't know what a stablecoin is basically a cryptocurrency that's based on the value of the underlying asset. A really good stablecoin, or the most popular one, is called Tether. Now, there's been some controversy around Tether, because Tether is supposed to have $1 for every backed one stablecoin or Tether coin that's there. And there's been some questions whether or not that really holds true. So that's created some opportunities in the market. For example, Gemini, which is both best known for the Winklevoss twins from Facebook fame, that they own this. They started their own Gemini token, which is called, I think it's called GUSD. That's been launched. As well, and by the way, they actually use State Street as their custodial services for the dollars. So that's kind of an interesting mix. And then Circle came out with their own stablecoin as well called USDC. So people are starting to create it. But what's interesting about stablecoins is it's not just related to US dollars or sterling. For example, I wrote this down, there's one called Candy by the Bank of Mongolia, where they actually are backing up their own currency with it, and it's actually quite popular and doing really well. So maybe that's an example of maybe somewhere where more of these third world type of countries, a stable coin or some sort of cryptocurrency is really, really needed. But we have a great panel that's going to be talking about stable coins today. The last panel that we're talking about is security tokens. Now, we at DX, we have a security token exchange that we're launching. And you know, security tokens has been probably the most talked about product since late 2017. And I almost feel like we're exactly in the same place as we were in late 2017. Yes, there's companies like Securitize, who was just invested by Coinbase. There's Polynex out there. There's T0 that's out there. But nothing's really moving forward. So even us as an exchange where we can list security tokens, there's not much in the pipeline. It's almost like this chicken and the egg. And what exactly does that mean, security token? Right? Is it tokenization of assets, like art or real estate? Or is it a new way of raising funds for your company so that you don't be found problematic with one of the alphabet suits in terms of the government, in terms of raising money? You know, so these are some good questions. I hope that you'll be able to learn some more answers on the panel today. To wrap up, look, you know, 2019, we've got a lot of great stuff coming out. DX is launching. We have some really interesting products that are going to be on board. A new product that is going to hit the market that nobody's heard of. Hopefully, Bloomberg will be breaking it for us in the next coming weeks. And you know, I'm more than happy to talk to any of you guys about the market or anything. Just don't ask me where the Bitcoin price is, because as an exchange operator, I'm not actually allowed to answer that question. But I'm happy to be here, and if anybody wants to talk, let's do it, okay? So welcome to the show. Cheers.